Hey guys, bonjour from Casablanca. I'm sitting here drinking a Casablanca beer in our 4-story walk-up apartment. Kind of close to the beach, but above a very crazy, busy street. And I thought about this as I started doing these things on the ship coming across the ocean. I could have gone inside and done them all. But I think if you hear the background noise that I'm hearing each day, it'll give you a little more perspective about some of the things that are going through my mind as I write these things and deliver them to you. Today I want to talk to you about heroes. My biggest hero since 1996 has been Jesus. And he should be your hero too. You. It's easy to find out about him. I wrote a couple books about him. Read those books. You can talk to him. He'll listen to you 24/7. He's never too busy to hear what Frank or Arlo has to say. And there's a lot of things that I could tell you about Jesus as a hero, but we don't have enough time for that. I try to keep these things around 15 to 25 minutes so you're not falling asleep and not getting the whole thing. Now, I guess my first hero was my Grandpa Weber. He used to do things that would make me become better. And there were things that were counterintuitive, and I told you the other day that much of life is counterintuitive. I'll give you an example of something that he did. My parents bought me a bow and arrow set. It was a little bow and arrow set that had the bow and a string that was kind of just a string. It wasn't a compound bow. It wasn't a real bow and arrow. And it had this little arrow with feathers and a rubber suction cup. You were supposed to go bing and stick it to a window or something. But I decided that I wanted to try to hit the telephone pole on the corner of the 87th Street and Pennsylvania Avenue in Stone Harbor, kind of right next to the porch of our house at 8614 Pennsylvania Avenue. And my grandpa was out there with me. So I said, hey, Grandpa, that was a little guy. Grandpa, I'm going to hit that telephone pole. And I didn't hit it. And my grandpa said to me, you know, Bag, you're part Navajo Indian. You're 1/10 Navajo Indian. You can just shoot that arrow and it'll hit the target. So now that you know about your background, shoot another arrow and see what happens. Well, son of a gun, I went bing, and I hit the tree, or I hit the telephone pole. So from that day on, I told people I was part Navajo. I'm sure that my grandpa made that whole thing up, but he did it because he knew that I had a better chance of hitting that telephone pole if I thought it was part of my heritage to be able to do that. Now, another hero that I had was my dad, your great-grandfather, great-grandpa Clark. Unfortunately, I didn't realize that until it was too late, until he was gone. He died in early 2002. Right after I married your grandmother, although that wasn't the cause of death. And I never got to tell him that. But I think there's some things that he never got to tell me, and I'll see him in heaven someday, and we'll clear all that up. So when you have a hero who's close to you, make sure you let them know. You've been a positive influence in my life. You've taught me to do some things. You've made me better. And the people that you are around, some of them you look up at, and some of them you won't. Or look up to, I should say. If somebody's your hero, you will remember things about them years later. I'll give you an example. And this is somebody that I only encountered for one summer. I think it was the summer of 1969 when I turned 16 years old. Now the summer before, I had a job at Bud's Supermarket on 3rd Avenue and 83rd Street in Stone Harbor. But the next year, they were hiring at the borough of Stone Harbor, and I wanted to work trash, but I didn't get to be a trash man. I was too young. I was 15 in the beginning of the summer, and I turned 16 that summer on August 5th. So they made me a landscaper. They didn't call it that. I was on the grass detail. I spent all day with a lawnmower, a push mower, mowing grass all over the island of Stone Harbor. I was with a crew of, I think, 4 guys total. I don't remember most of their names. There was one guy named Chris Farquhar, who I became kind of friendly with, a couple other guys. But we were 15, 16-year-old boys, very impressionable, very interested in learning about life, definitely interested in learning about women. And our crew chief was an American Indian named Ralph Walkingstick. And this was close enough to when my grandpa did the arrow thing that I probably said to Ralph, oh yeah, I'm 1/10 Navajo Indian, which I'm sure really impressed him. Ralph taught me some things about life that I remember now, all these years hence. One thing he taught me was to describe people in ways that are unique. And he didn't say, hey, guys, describe people in ways that are unique. But that was the lesson. And he didn't do it as a lesson. He just described somebody to us one day, and it made us bust up. But I remember this description to this day. And whenever I see somebody creepy, this is what I think about. So part of what we did was to maintain the grass area around the public bathrooms at 96 and 2nd Avenue. But we didn't clean out the bathrooms. There was this really creepy guy that did that. Nobody liked this guy. One day we were cutting the grass there, at the same time that he was cleaning the ladies' room. He got done, and he came out, and he started to talk about the things that he found in the ladies' room. And it was disgusting because he wasn't going, oh yeah, that's really disgusting. These women are disgusting. He was going, guess what I found? And so we were freaked out. When you're talking about 15, 16-year-old boys, definitely interested in what's going on in the ladies' room, but not interested enough to want to hear this guy tell us about it. And Ralph just stood there to the side, let the guy finish, and he walked off, and he said, "Hey guys, that's the kind of guy right there who walks along the beach, picks up dead seagulls, and squeezes farts out of them. That's what makes that man happy." And we just busted out laughing. That was the coolest thing that we ever heard. All these years later, we're talking about 50 years ago. I remember that. Another thing that Ralph taught me is to always be able to back up your assertions with facts. Here's a great example. One time, he said, "My wife has a big mouth." So us boys, we cracked up like, "Bet you don't tell her that, Ralph." And Ralph said, "I told her she has a big mouth." And we said, "Bet she got real mad, Ralph, didn't she?" And he said, "Yes, but then I proved it." Well, we were all ears. How do you prove to a woman that she has a big mouth? It's like, "Well, tell us about it. Tell us about it." But he wasn't talking about what we thought he was talking about. He said, "When I take a bite of an apple, it's smaller than when she takes a bite of an apple. So I took an apple and I gave one to her. And she was upset because I told her she had a bigger mouth than me. And I said, 'Take a bite of that apple, I'll prove it.' She took a bite, I took a bite, and I held the two apples up and I said, 'Look, your bite's bigger than my bite.' And I won that argument." Now, I suspect Ralph really didn't win that argument, but it sounded good to us. Another thing is Ralph taught us to do the right thing, no matter how brutal it was. One time he told us this story about his granddaughter. And he usually didn't talk about the fact that he was an American Indian, but he did that day. And he said, "My people have very, very dark hair and a lot of hair. And my granddaughter was by the pool in a bikini bathing suit, and the hair was sticking out from the two sides of the bathing suit." Now, 15, 16-year-old boys, we were like, "Whoa!" I wish I was there, but we were all ears. And somebody said, Did you say something to her, Ralph?" And he said, "No, if I said something, it really wouldn't have had the effect that I wanted. I wanted her to never make a mistake like that again. It's embarrassing." So I walked over and I reached down and I pulled on the hair on the side. And we were like, "Whoa." Now I really wish I was there. Like, "Hey, Ralph, what did she do?" She screamed and she ran inside crying. And I talked to her later and told her why I did it. And she said, "Don't worry, grandfather, it will never happen again." But if I just told her, it would have happened again. And then, this is in closing, Ralph taught me something that's really one of the basic precepts of the Libertarian Party. And I am a Libertarian. I have been one since probably the late 1970s. I was a Libertarian before I was old enough to vote. I've never voted for the winner in a presidential election. I've always voted Libertarian, except one time. And that was a very special occasion. But what Ralph taught me is that we don't always need rules. In our society, we think that the more rules we give, the more order you're going to have, the better things are going to be. So let's take driving, for instance. Oh, there's all these rules. There's books this thick of the rules of each state or commonwealth about how to drive a car. Ralph said, I have an easy way of solving the traffic problem, people driving poorly. We said, what's that, Ralph? More stop signs? And he said, no. Take away the guardrails. Go on every mountain and take away the guardrails. Take away the speed limit signs. And all the stupid people are going to drive off the side of the mountain and kill themselves. And all the smart people are going to drive correctly. And you don't have to worry about it. And it doesn't cost a lot of money. Now, we thought that he was just pulling our leg. Maybe he was. But there are countries in the world that have said, let's get rid of all the traffic control and make people accountable for driving and looking at the other driver and figuring out, like, okay, should you go, should I go? And those places have less traffic accidents, less deaths due to traffic accidents, and it costs a lot less money. I remember all that stuff from Ralph Walkingstick. A lot of stuff from my grandpa, a lot of stuff from my dad. Those things will stay with me. Find heroes. Find heroes who will make you better, who will make you think, who you'll remember years from now. Peace out from Casablanca, guys.